Our story begins over 2,000 years ago in Judea, a small and often overlooked province on the eastern edge of the vast Roman Empire. This land, marked by rolling hills and ancient towns, was a crossroads of cultures, beliefs, and empires, a place where daily life was shaped by both local traditions and the distant rule of Rome. In this humble setting, Jesus was born in the village of Bethlehem. He grew up in Nazareth, a quiet town nestled in the Galilean countryside, living an ordinary life as a carpenter, working with his hands and learning the rhythms of rural existence. His early years were spent among family and neighbors, far from the centers of power. As an adult, Jesus began to travel and teach, sharing a message that was both simple and profound, a message of love, compassion, and forgiveness. He spoke to people in fields, on hillsides, and in bustling marketplaces, drawing listeners from all walks of life. He gathered around him 12 devoted followers, known as the Apostles. These men left behind their families, their trades, and their familiar lives to walk alongside him, inspired by his words and the hope he offered. Jesus often spoke in parables, simple stories with deeper meanings, offering hope to the poor, comfort to the suffering, and challenging the powerful to rethink their ways. His words resonated with those who felt forgotten or oppressed. His teachings questioned not only the authority of the Roman occupiers, but also the influence and practices of the local religious leaders. He called for a new way of living, one rooted in justice, mercy, and humility. The idea of a kingdom of God, a realm where the meek would inherit the earth and the last would be first, was radical and unsettling to those in power. It threatened the established order and sparked fear among both Roman officials and religious elites. As word of his teaching spread, crowds began to gather wherever he went. His growing popularity and the devotion of his followers set the stage for a dramatic confrontation with the authorities. Though his public ministry lasted only a few short years, the seeds he planted, ideas of love, justice, and hope, began to take root in the hearts of many, offering a new way of understanding the world and humanity's place within it. Jesus addressed the deep human need for hope, belonging, and connection to something greater than themselves. His message spoke to the longing for meaning and purpose that transcends time and place. During his lifetime, Jesus was seen by many as just a local figure, a teacher and healer in a troubled land. But his death, and the extraordinary claims his followers made about what happened next, would change the course of history forever. The story of Jesus was only beginning its journey, spreading from the hills of Judea to distant lands, carried by those who believed in his message. From these humble beginnings, a movement was born, one that would grow, adapt, and reach far beyond the borders of Judea, touching countless lives across continents and generations. The impact of his life and message would echo through the centuries, inspiring art, culture, and the very fabric of societies around the world. This is where the epic journey of Christianity truly begins, a journey that continues to shape the world to this day. In the bustling city of Jerusalem, during the sacred festival of Passover, Jesus of Nazareth was arrested under the cover of night. Roman soldiers, acting on the orders of local authorities, led him away. He was tried, condemned, and executed by crucifixion outside the city walls. A brutal and public death meant to silence him forever. His followers were left shattered and heartbroken, hiding in fear and believing that their hopes and their movement had come to a tragic end. But then, 3 days later, something extraordinary happened. The disciples claimed that Jesus had risen from the dead. They found his tomb empty, and some reported seeing him alive, speaking and eating with them. The resurrection became the unshakable cornerstone of their faith. It transformed the apostles from fearful, grieving followers into bold and courageous leaders, willing to risk everything for what they now believed was the truth. No longer hiding, they began preaching openly in the streets and marketplaces, declaring to all who would listen that Jesus was the long-awaited Messiah. On the day of Pentecost, a remarkable event occurred. The apostles spoke in many languages, reaching out to people from every nation gathered in Jerusalem. The message of Jesus began to spread to diverse crowds, breaking barriers of language and culture. thousands responded to their message, joining together to form the very first Christian community in Jerusalem, a movement that grew with astonishing speed. These early Christians shared everything they had, caring for the poor and the needy, and gathering regularly to remember Jesus through prayer, teaching, and communal meals. The faith did not remain confined to Jerusalem. The apostles set out on journeys to distant cities like Antioch, carrying the story of Jesus with them wherever they went. At first, they spoke to their fellow Jews in synagogues, but soon they reached out to Gentiles in Roman forums, opening the doors of faith to all people, regardless of background. This bold shift made Christianity a universal message, no longer limited to one nation or one people, but offered to the entire world. The story of Jesus began to move swiftly across the vast Roman world, carried by travelers, merchants, and missionaries along ancient roads and sea routes. Early Christians faced suspicion, hostility, and even persecution. Yet despite these dangers, their conviction and sense of purpose only grew stronger. The message of hope, forgiveness, and resurrection could not be contained. It spread from house to house, like a light shining in the darkness. From a small, frightened group, a vibrant and diverse global movement was born, reaching people of every background and walk of life. The journey of faith had only just begun, with new horizons and new lands waiting to hear the message. Christianity was no longer a local sect. It was rapidly becoming a world religion, touching hearts and changing lives far beyond its birthplace. The message of Jesus, rooted in hope and resurrection, would not die. It would endure, inspiring countless generations to come. Saul of Tarsus, a devout Jew and Roman citizen, fiercely persecuted early Christians. On the road to Damascus, he experienced a vision of Jesus that changed his life. Blinded and then healed, Saul became Paul, the movement's greatest advocate. Paul argued that Gentiles could join without following all Jewish laws, opening Christianity to all. He traveled extensively, founding churches and writing letters that shaped Christian theology. Paul's transformation and tireless work spread the faith across the empire. More than anyone, Paul turned Christianity from a small sect into a global faith. Christian communities sprang up across the Mediterranean, often in major cities and trade routes. Early Christians met in homes, creating a sense of family and equality rare in Roman society. The faith welcomed all, slaves, women, rich and poor, teaching that all were equal before God. Christians cared for the sick and poor, earning respect and attracting converts. The Gospels and letters of Paul circulated, forming the foundation of Christian belief. These texts were read aloud and copied by hand, uniting scattered communities. The faith spread quietly through merchants, soldiers, and slaves. By the 3rd century, Christianity had grown into a vast network from Spain to Persia. It was a grassroots movement, thriving through everyday acts of faith. The seeds planted by the apostles were growing into a global church. For centuries, Christians faced suspicion, hostility, and brutal persecution throughout the vast Roman Empire. Their beliefs set them apart from the mainstream, making them targets for both the authorities and the public. Refusing to worship the many Roman gods, Christians were seen as outsiders, a threat to the traditional order. When disasters struck, fires, plagues, or invasions, blame often fell on these steadfast believers, accused of angering the gods. Many were executed in public arenas, facing wild beasts or the sword. Yet, their unwavering courage and faith in the face of death inspired countless others to join their ranks, drawn by the hope and conviction they displayed. The blood of the martyrs became the seed of the church, nourishing a movement that would only grow stronger with each sacrifice. Everything changed with Emperor Constantine. After a dramatic vision of the cross in the sky before battle, he embraced Christianity, forever altering the course of history. The Edict of Milan in 313 made Christianity legal, ending centuries of persecution and granting believers the freedom to worship openly for the first time. Constantine not only supported the church, but also funded the construction of magnificent basilicas and granted Christians new privileges and positions of influence within the empire. Later, Emperor Theodosius went even further, making Christianity the official religion of the Roman Empire, uniting church and state in a powerful alliance. What began as a persecuted faith, practiced in secret, now stood at the very center of imperial power, its leaders welcomed in the halls of government. The transformation was astonishing. Christianity moved from the margins to the mainstream, its followers gathering openly in grand cathedrals instead of hidden rooms. The Church gained immense influence, shaping the laws, culture, and future of Europe, and, eventually, lands far beyond the empire's borders. The faith's survival and growth were now assured, as Christianity spread rapidly, touching the lives of millions and transforming societies. Christianity was no longer just tolerated, it was triumphant, celebrated in public processions and illuminated basilicas that shone as beacons of hope. The world would never be the same. From humble beginnings, Christianity's rise from persecution to power changed the course of history forever. As Christianity became the religion of an empire, disagreements about core beliefs emerged. To resolve them, Emperor Constantine called the Council of Nicaea in 325. The council rejected Arianism and created the Nicene Creed, affirming Jesus' divinity. Later councils further defined doctrine and the nature of the Trinity. Jerome's Latin translation of the Bible, the Vulgate, unified Western Christianity. These developments created a clear, shared faith and a common religious language. The Church's intellectual and spiritual foundation was set for centuries. Christianity was now a unified force, ready to shape the world. As the Western Roman Empire fell, Christianity split into East and West. Rome, led by the Pope, became the center in the West. Constantinople led the East. Differences in language, culture, and theology grew. Disputes over the Pope's authority and religious practices deepened the divide. In 1054, mutual excommunications formalized the Great Schism. The West became the Roman Catholic Church, the East, the Eastern Orthodox Church. Each developed distinct traditions and shaped their region's histories. Two great streams of Christian civilization now flowed side by side. After Rome's fall, Christianity spread through Europe as kings and tribes converted. Missionaries targeted rulers, knowing their people would follow. Monks from Ireland and England brought faith and learning to the continent. Cyril and Methodius brought orthodoxy to the Slavs, creating the Cyrillic script. By the Middle Ages, Christianity dominated Europe. The Crusades and Reconquista shaped Christian identity and relations with Islam. The Age of Discovery sent missionaries worldwide, often alongside colonizers. Conversion was sometimes sincere, sometimes forced, linking faith with empire. Christianity became a truly global religion, for better and for worse. In the 1500s, Martin Luther's challenge to Catholic practices sparked the Protestant Reformation. New churches formed, religious wars erupted, and Europe's unity shattered. The printing press spread new ideas rapidly. The Catholic Church responded with reforms and renewed missionary zeal. Protestants and Catholics competed to spread their faith worldwide. Missionaries brought education and medicine, but often imposed Western culture. Christianity grew rapidly in Africa, Asia, and the Americas. In the 20th century, secularism and persecution challenged the faith. Yet, Christianity thrived outside Europe, especially in the global South. Today, the typical Christian is more likely from Nigeria or Brazil than Europe. From humble beginnings, Christianity became the world's largest, most diverse religion.